My recovery started maybe 3 years ago. You can shape yourself into what you want through some work. And it takes work from process one to the end. Sometimes you're never satisfied. A lot of people say it doesn't happen, but it does happen. You identify as this. It's like, what do you do for work? We say, I'm a correction officer. You work as a correction officer. You don't want to be a correction officer 24/7, and sometimes it absorbs you. Unfortunately, we get used to the assaults, the 4-on-4 fights, the stabbing, the shanks, the ODs, the self-mutilation, the unfortunate suicides that has been kind of spiking lately and stuff. So this is trauma, and you'll see how different COs react to it. Some of them are quiet. That's not always a good sign either. Some of them get emotional about it. Some of them make jokes about it. And I think all those responses, I had them all.
Like, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was using it to like black out, I just didn't want to deal with it, you know what I mean? And I just wanted to forget about my day. And then I started like basically abandoning my home life. I just wanted to like forget about everything because I didn't want to deal with anything. I didn't want to think about that place. I didn't want to think about work. Yeah, I got you. Give me a few minutes, right? I lost my marriage and I lost myself basically. You know, basically my life was destroyed.
What we're seeing is a recognition that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way the correction system operates today. Part of the problem is that COs are being recruited to this job and they're not being told that they can hold on to their humanity. They walk into this environment where fear is perpetuated daily. Your job is confinement and control. And after a while, that starts to eat at you.
I used to go into work angry every day. At 2 o'clock every day, I would get this headache. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, why am I getting a migraine at the same time every day? And then I realized it's because I'm going to my closet and getting my uniform and putting on my boots. You're always on defense when you go to work. It changes you. You harden up. You don't know how to speak to people anymore. You just think the world's against you. So you tend to bring that home. The job has given me a lot in my life, but I think what it's taken away outweighs that.
It eats you up. That's not a normal job. You don't know what you're gonna expect.
Some of the things that you see and witness and the after effects of a cell covered in blood and feces becomes normal to you, but it's not normal to see and smell these senses that are like just so odd. So my de-stress ended up being drinking. It kind of shut off my brain from overthinking, and I was becoming a miserable, fat, drunk person that no one wanted to be around.
The normal response is, oh, well, let's go out and get some beer, or let's go out and get a drink. And that is that coping mechanism that takes you down that road. It's not working out at home. It's not working out at work. I'm drinking more. I'm sleeping less. So physically now it's taking a toll. Mentally it's taking its toll. I've heard officers say they turn onto the street to get to our facility and they're white knuckling it. They feel sick to their stomach. They're just walking in the front door. Can you imagine every single day having to get up, drive to work? I'm on vacation this week and I go back tomorrow. I was thinking I have a little bit of a knot in my chest because I'm going back to work tomorrow. So if these are the things that I'm experiencing, then someone who really struggles going to work, that's enhanced even more. We all have the same issues: heart disease, divorce rates.
I have my kids trying to get my attention. Dad, Dad, Dad. And you go, what? What do you? And then they jump back and then you don't realize you're doing it, you know what I mean? Like, leave me alone. Like, I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to enjoy my freedom. Because you feel like you're a prisoner. Because you're working 16 hours a day sometimes, and then when you're out home, you're like trying to make enjoy like the little bit of freedom you have. And it's hard sometimes because you feel like you're an inmate. You feel like you're there, you know what I mean? And it's hard. It was hard to turn it off.
The things that I very, very much enjoyed, I wasn't doing anymore. With 16-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, I always made time to get some alcohol in my system. And not in a good state. It wasn't like I drank and I was a happy guy. I was becoming a miserable person. So I was very over-emotional, quick to anger, or laughing at stuff that's just not funny. I was off. I knew I was off. So when it all came to a head, after several years of this, my wife tries to, get me to go to see a counselor or talk to somebody, and just like most CEOs, no, I'm all set. I can handle this. I can do this. We're a bunch of alpha males, most of us. Next thing I know, I'm waking up from a coma.
Impact of the correction system as it's being run in the world is this trauma that's manifesting within officers. There's nothing holistic about the correctional system. The only thing that matters is control and containment.
It's difficult to ask for help, especially in corrections and law enforcement and police and anything with strong personalities. It's very difficult to say I'm struggling with something and I need some help. It's hard to trust people.
I was married, and this job played a big part on my divorce. I didn't know how to speak anymore. I would go home and ask her to just be quiet. I need to unwind. But what is that doing for somebody else that doesn't work in corrections? They don't understand. I wanted to go to the bar where the people that only understood was the people that my brothers and sisters that worked with me. And that's toxic.
The job has definitely caused stress in my relationship with my wife. I won't share much with her. You just don't go home and tell somebody like somebody was covered in shit today. Looking at somebody puking up stuff they don't even have in their stomach because they're detoxing. Look at the verge of death. And it's like, that's what you see every single day. So to come home, I don't know, I have to find other outlets. I just don't share it with my wife.
There is a high divorce rate. A lot of my friends that I've had starting out in the career, already been married, divorced, and remarried. A lot of guys are dealing with, child support things and adding more stress to this, and we don't become the most pleasant people.
I think people see correctional officers that haven't worked in the system as assholes, as babysitters, as people that aren't intelligent.
People say correctional officers are overpaid babysitters.
Just, guards that have a blue-collar job that don't have much to them.
You don't know what it's like. You never did that. You never worked behind the wall. You don't know what it's like to see somebody caught up. You don't know what it's like to walk by a cell and see somebody just hanging there.
I think the public in the criminal justice system see COs as the lowest part of law enforcement on the totem pole.
Yeah, I don't even know if the public cares. The reason I ended up becoming a correction officer was doing the economy collapse in the 2000s, and there was no work, and they've always worked. Then I was thinking, I don't even have a job. I can't really be picking and choosing.
The good part about it is you get a lot of vacation. Benefits are great, but does that really matter at the end of the day when it comes to your mental health?
For me, if I had the option to start this job again, I would not.
I love my job. You don't often hear that. When I tell people that I love my job, people especially COs or anybody in the business, they're like, what's wrong with you?
I get it. The overtime, we're short staff, it's hard retaining people, it's hard to get people in the academy. Let's face it, corrections, when people are not beating down the doors to get a job, in corrections. It's not a big famous job.
This is the life we chose, right? But if we knew in advance, maybe we would have taken a different path.
That life expectancy of a CO is about 18 months after your retirement. So what damage is it doing that 18 months after my retirement is the end of my life? I've just spent 20 years dealing with what I've dealt with, seeing with what I've seen, and I only get to enjoy 18 months of it. It just sounds awful.
You think about it, you're like, oh boy, you know, you just can't think about it that way, you know.
What's my life gonna be after this? I have 2 years left. You know, you hear all the stats about correctional officers, you know, life expectancy and things like that. You know, I can't say that doesn't weigh on my mind. Every door here opens. All that's keeping them in their cells during lockdown is us. You know, that's all we all want, is to go home to our families after our shift. It's tough. The first couple of years are tough. Now that I'm a veteran correctional officer, I have different stresses.
When you first start, nobody would talk to you. That was the way it works. So you come onto the job and you have to be involved in some type of altercation before you're deemed okay. Because it all comes down to trust. You're brand new, nobody trusts you.
You think it's a brotherhood, but it's really not, you know, because at the end of the day, you went in there by yourself, you leave by yourself. When I was going through my divorce, you see people running their mouths and, you know, negative stuff. It's like a high school.
The gossip is off the hook. Something can happen in the lunchroom. By the time you get up to your unit, you're getting a phone call. Do you hear what happened? And then it takes on this whole other spin. So you don't even know what's true anymore. The inmates aren't really necessarily the issue. It's your co-workers. And when I say that, it's not that they're bad. It's personalities.
Some of them become so miserable and so nasty that I really think that their dealing with stress is to spread gossip, lies. And I'm like, this isn't the person that started in a jail. They're miserable. I don't think they started off as miserable people.
I think the hardest thing that I found for us is not getting desensitized. You lose sight of why you're there, and that is the biggest challenge, I think, for everybody involved. It's, for us, for correction officers, it's finding a sense of compassion or empathy.
The problem is that the training doesn't emphasize compassion enough, so therefore you suppress compassion, you suppress humanity. So any deviance is pounced upon. And because everybody else in the environment is suppressing their humanity, and in some cases it's purely based out of fear, that they're suppressing that vulnerability.
You go to work, you're there for 16 hours, and then you go home, sleep, wake up, back at it again. You know, it's like you basically are going to your cell when you go home and go to sleep.
Your mind doesn't shut off. And I didn't realize that normal people that don't have my job don't think that way.
Officers, they absorb so much just negative, toxic, aggressive behavior, microaggressions, insults, slanders. They internalize this stuff, and after a while, you break.
Some people can't cope with it anymore and they take their own lives. That's a big issue in corrections. You're so afraid to talk, or you just don't know how anymore.
Did it come to my head? Yeah, absolutely. I tried to, I wanted to end it. I wanted to end my life. But then I look at my kids. That's a selfish thing to me to do. I was their hero, you know?
I've actually experienced with officers and supervisors at my job take their own lives. And it's just so sad, because if they probably would have just opened up to somebody and, you know, explained how they were feeling, it could have probably saved them. And for myself as well, there are points in my career and my depression that I thought about it too. Unfortunately, some people can't conquer that battle with depression.
On a national average, 3 officers a week are committing suicide. If it was any other occupation or any other institution, they would shut it down immediately and demand an audit, a survey, a study to figure out why. But run the machine up and send us another CO.
I was just looking to get my bills paid. I didn't know that it was going to come at a cost. I didn't know it would come at a cost of suicide. My coworkers, you know, getting to a point in their life that the only hope out for them was to end their life. To literally watch officers drink themselves to death.
The reason I have a good understanding of operations of corrections is that my father was in corrections. I joined, and unfortunately my son joined. And because of the brokenness of this system, my family's broken. And my son, who took his life last year. Because our agency is not telling society the truth about what this job can and will do to you. It's killing people.
There is a problem in corrections, there's a problem in law enforcement. These officers need help. Go talk to somebody, go get the help. Leave the job if you have to leave the job if it's better for your life. But don't sit there in that quicksand, because it's gonna swallow you up.
All the things that you enjoyed, all the things that kind of gave you that sense of purpose, they're not there anymore. It becomes a routine. I just get up, I go to work, I go home, I get up, I go to work, I go home. And when you get up and you go to work and you go home, and there's no joy in your life, then the issues start.
I had to reinvent my life again. I had to rebuild myself. Time to get out of this route.
I want to go outside.
All right, you getting ready?
Getting ready.
All right. So, let's do this. I said to myself, I'm gonna do this. I gotta move forward. I gotta rebuild myself.
So I started seeing a counselor, which I hope everybody can understand that that's something that you need to do. You need to speak to somebody that doesn't know anything about you, that can't judge you. You can't speak to the people that you work with because you want them to see you as this tough person and they want you to see them as the tough person.
I believe the antidote is the reformation of our system to actually care about humanity. It should be our job that if we're trying to help this person rehabilitate, our job is to help them figure out how to make it through that without hurting someone else as a byproduct of it.
I recognize that I do have an impact when I go to work on the people that I work with and the people that we incarcerate. And I know that I have an opportunity to maybe change the perspective of someone, whether I'm working with them or overseeing them for the day.
Once the staffs and the officers really say, like, you know, let's try to stick together, let's bring the best out of each other, let's hold each other accountable, let's make sure we do the best job we can together, where we help each other out, and let's move forward from there.
The way the system operates is it's designed to pit you one against the other, the CO versus the inmate. Over 90% of the individuals that are incarcerated are going to come back to their community. So therefore, what we as a society would like is for the system to help them recognize their own humanity. I believe a good percentage of the correctional officers would be more than willing to help them develop skill sets, both hard and soft, to sit and engage in how a person can find that place to operate in society.
Gives me a sense of purpose, and that's what I think. At the end of the day, it's recognizing that you do have an impact.
If we can change the culture and change the new officers coming in, and maybe we can change a couple of the old school COs, then the goal is to have that spread.
Let's really begin to work on this, because we can see that this can be beneficial all around for the correction officers, for their family, for the staff, for the incarcerated.